Hello. Uh, Welcome to Mountaineer Bushcraft and Survival Systems. Today, we're going to harvest some pine sap. And before we do that, I'll give some explanations of some of the usefulness of it. Makes a fantastic fire starter, which is my primary objective of getting it today. Also, you can use it to cover wounds. It's actually fairly antibacterial. You can mix it with fine shredded plant material. You can make almost a glue out of it. But today, the goal is to get us some pine sap for fire starting. And we're going to use just a simple recycled glass jar with a lid. Now, most pine trees you'll find pine sap on, especially if they've got some old injuries that are healing over. Try not to harvest it too deep where you reopen the wound on that pine tree. Just get what you need or what you can safely harvest from a tree, move to another tree, get more. And today our belt knife we'll be using is the Gerber Prodigy. Typical find at Walmart. Not a high-end knife, but it's another one of the ones that are affordable that I'm not afraid to recommend. It's pretty decently thick blade. It does have a 90-degree spine, but it's not that aggressive, so it does strike a ferro rod, just not as good. Full tang knife, glass breaker on the back, which comes in handy for some bushcraft survival things, cracking nuts, that sort of thing. Maybe even help you make a bow drill divot. You can put that down on your piece of wood, start drilling it back and forth, kind of grind out a little socket. But you can use your knife to harvest the sap. Now, especially if it's warmer out during the summer, it's going to get all over your knife, and it's hard to get off. Now, you can also just find you a stick. We'll cut that. There we go. Now you see, we got almost like a bit of a chisel kind of point going on there. Now, you can also use that to peel that sap off the tree and scrape it off inside your jar. That'll save getting a lot of gunk on your knife, which I will attempt to do instead of using the knife for this. Now then, we will get our jar. This is a fairly old pine tree, and it has a lot of older wounds on it. There's very little sap. We'll take that. Get up in this crotch here. We're starting to run into actual good sap there. It's so cold out, I may actually have to switch to the knife. There we go. That is a nice hunk of it. A little bit of bark mixed with it, but that is primarily a hunk of solid pine sap. It's been on the tree for a while and it's gotten hard. Plus, it's below freezing out today. We'll add that to the jar. There we go. It's another nice little hunk of it. There we go. That's a nice little hunk. Get that big piece of bark out of that. It's got some pine needles mixed into it, but that's just fine, being that we're going to use that to help us fire. Okay, that is quite solid. So We're gonna go to the knife. Yeah, that's a decent little chunk. Alright, that's it for that side of the tree. Now I'm gonna go collect some more here off of another tree right beside it, and I'll come back to you here and we'll see how much I'm able to collect just off 2 trees. Okay, and I'm back. That didn't take too awful long, a couple minutes. And we have some really nice chunks of pine sap. So they won't come out, but I put them in there. Now there's enough in this jar right at the moment for several fires. And we will do a video, and we'll make us a fire and utilize this pine sap here. So that said, I will show you what I was talking about with your knife getting gunked up. Well, it's not impossible to get off, but I made myself some work to take care of after I'm done filming. But yeah, the sap was so dry and hard. The stick I had was just a dry, dead piece of pine stick, and wasn't doing the greatest for it. So had to come back to the knife. Okay, now then, I already hinted at some uses for the pine sap, part is using it for medical purposes and also using it for glue. Long time ago, back when our ancestors were using pieces of flint for arrowheads, they also utilized that to make the pine pitch, adding the fibrous material into it, getting it hot, melting it all together and applying it like a glue. And once it hardened, it was quite hard. It's more like a crystalline structure than sap at that point. It's a highly useful material, and out here in West Virginia, we got quite a lot of pine trees, and it's one of my go-to as far as a bushcraft and survival thing. There's many uses for the pine tree. I'm not going to get into all that today on this video, but yeah, sure, a lot of you have watched many other survival videos where people especially use the boughs of the pine tree for their shelters. And it's a good fire making tree. And if you can find down trees that have slightly rotted away, you can potentially harvest fat wood out of it, which a lot of people like using for fire making material. The pine knots, say you get a fire established and you really need a good hot fire going, you got some less than ideal wood, the pine knots, you can usually take a hatchet or a good fixed blade knife, and you can get them out of the slightly rotten trees that are laying on the ground. It's where the branches come in, and there'll be a little hard ball where that branch comes out of the base of the tree. You see any of these up here? Yeah, see where the branches come out. They're going into the tree. Where that branch goes into the tree, that'll end up being where your little knots are. And they got a lot of pine sap that is dried up, hardened in them. And you introduce those to the flame and they catch, they'll burn quite hot. And they'll actually burn for quite a little while. And that can definitely give you the edge on getting you a fire started in some adverse conditions. Like today. It's very windy. I do believe the high today was 44 degrees. You don't want to be stuck out in the middle of nowhere in those kind of conditions. Hypothermia will probably most likely claim your life in that situation if you don't know how to, at the very least, build a shelter. But having a fire would be pretty well your want to do kind of thing to keep yourself from freezing to death. But pretty short video, but I figured I'd introduce pine sap here because you'll most likely throughout future videos, and when we start going out on some adventures, you'll probably see me harvesting firewood, fire starting material from the local pine trees out here quite frequently. So with that, thank you for watching the video. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you get notifications when my new videos come out. And thank you very much for watching.